In July of 2020, during the height of the pandemic, Taylor Swift released her 8th studio album, Folklore. This Grammy Award-winning album has 16 songs and one bonus track, and I, Gabriella Malamed, am here to talk about 3 of the songs, Cardigan, August, and Betty. Upon first listen of the album, you probably would not think anything of these songs, besides the fact that they're very good. But if you listen more closely, and you read the lyrics to the songs, you'll hear that Swift is telling us a story. It's a seemingly dramatic story, as it tells the tale of a high school love triangle. The lyrical perspectives of the songs may not mean that much to the average listener, but if you appreciate an attention to detail, prepare to be amazed. I also just think that these 3 songs really highlight how in-depth and strategic Taylor Swift's songwriting skills are. The 3 songs, Cardigan, August, and Betty, tell the perspectives of 3 people, Betty, August, and James. I know that sounds really daunting and kind of confusing, but I promise you it's not that bad. If it helps, feel free to listen to the songs first or follow along with the lyrics pulled up on your screen. The first song we'll talk about is Cardigan. This is track 2 on the album, the first song of the 3 you'd hear. This song is from Betty's perspective. Betty explains in the song that she's been cheated on by a boy that she knew so well, probably more than he knew himself. She says that she knew him so well that she knew exactly what he'd do to her, the good and the bad. Alright, prepare to take some notes. Some notable lyrics that will later be referenced again are high heels on cobblestones, chase 2 girls, lose the one, to kiss in cars, you tried to change the ending, Peter losing Wendy, I knew you'd miss me once the thrill expired and you'd be standing in my front porch light, and probably the most important one, when you are young they assume you know nothing, but I knew you. Now we move on to track 8, which is August. This song is from an unnamed girl's perspective, but for the sake of clarity we will just call her August. You will better understand later why she isn't referenced by name. August is the girl who the boy cheated on Betty with. This song goes into detail about a summer fling that clearly meant more to August than it did to the boy involved. She feels sorrow, she feels used, she's not the villain at all. Some notable lyrics in this song include, "'Cause you were never mine," "Wishing I could write my name on it," "I remember thinking I had you," "Canceled plans just in case you'd call," "So much for summer love and saying us," and finally, "Remember when I pulled up and said get in the car." Now on to Betty, track 14. Most people get really confused here because Betty is from James's perspective. It's like a song to Betty, if that helps. This is where it all comes together. If you listen to the other 2 songs on their own, there's not much that crossover. But this song is where the lyrics all really make sense and overlap. In the song, James is just explaining himself and apologizing to Betty. The notable lyrics in this song all cross over with the notable lyrics in the other songs, Cardigan and August. I'll start with the Betty versus James perspectives first. Okay, now remember, if I'm talking about James, I mean the song Betty, and if I'm talking about Betty, I'm talking about the song Cardigan. Okay, here we go. James says, "I was walking home on cobblestones," and Betty says, "high heels on cobblestones," a small but similar lyric. James chases 2 girls and lost the one, as Betty says in Cardigan. James says, "Kissing in my car again," while Betty says, "to kiss in cars." Betty says that James losing her is like Peter losing Wendy, meaning James was too immature for her. James very quickly regretted his mistake and came crawling back to Betty, as you hear in the song. James says, "So I showed up at your party," and Betty says, "I knew you'd miss me once the thrill expired and you'd be standing in my front porch light." This leads into the most important contradictive lyrics of the perspective. James says, "I'm only 17, I don't know anything," while Betty says, "When you are young they assume you know nothing, but I knew you." Like I explained before, Betty just knew him so well and clearly James could not say the same thing. If you don't like James, you're about to dislike him even more. It's time for the James versus August perspectives. To clarify, James is the song Betty and the unnamed girl is the song August, but we will just call her August. August says, "Remember when I pulled up and said get in the car," and James describes the situation as she pulled up like a figment of my worst intentions. Another fun and clever thing about these 2 lyrics is if you overlap the songs, the pulled up part plays at the same time. Anyways, James says, "I slept next to her, but I dreamt of you, Betty, all summer long." He just completely used August. And the saddest part is August calls her and James's love affair a summer love, while James just calls it a summer thing. Oh wait, it does get worse. We don't know August's real name because that's how irrelevant she is to James now. Okay, those are the biggest similarities, and that pretty much tells the story. I hope that was relatively easy to follow along. And that's all I got. There's a little more lyrical similarities if you look even closer into the songs, but I'll leave that for you to discover. I hope you enjoyed.